Welcome, viewers, to another edition of CHP Talks. I'm here today with a very special edition. We have a special guest, Member of Parliament Derek Sloan, with us today, and he's running actually for the leadership of the Conservatve Party. We also reached out to two other leadership contestants who have expressed pro-life views, Leslyn Lewis, who graciously declined, and also Jim Karahalios, who may or may not be in the race depending on his court date on Friday, and we'll maybe be in touch with him if that goes through, but not at this time. So welcome, and a special welcome to Member of Parliament Derek Sloan. Rod, do you want to introduce our special guest for today?
Yeah. First of all, Derek, thank you so much for joining us today. I know it's a busy time for you running for the leadership of the Conservatve Party. I know what that's like because I ran once for the leadership of the Christian Heritage Party, and here I am. So we thank you for taking time out of your campaign for this. We had hoped, as Peter mentioned, to have the other pro-life candidates or contestants to have an opportunity to speak with us as well. But anyway, you were available and you said yes, and thank you for joining us. So this is your first term, I believe, as MP for, what's the name of your riding? Hastings-Lennox and Addington?
That's correct, yep.
Yeah, so, and so you have three children. You live in near Belleville, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And well, we thank you for joining us. You want to say a little bit about your training and so on, how you came to be where you are today?
Sure. So I'm a lawyer by training, and I've worked as a lawyer for several years. I also am a former small business owner. So I owned my own business for several years, was involved in various sort of small business startups. And I became concerned about the direction of the country. In law school, actually, I found that, the ideas of like freedom of speech and freedom of conscience and the types of things that the average Canadian takes for granted are just not held by people on by people who are about to lead society. So by law students, by law professors, they just don't have the same idea as to what those things mean as you and I would, or as an average Canadian would. And I found myself very concerned. I felt that many law students were being trained to be sort of political activists first and foremost. And I just felt that I couldn't sit idly by and allow politics to be taken over by people of that nature. So that's what got me into this, and I've been campaigning nonstop for the last couple of years. First in my nomination, then for Parliament, and then now for leadership of the party.
Wow. So what motivates you? Obviously, the freedom issues that you mentioned. Are there other things that really tipped the scales and pushed you into active political involvement?
Well, I've always been, conservative in the sense of feeling that the government is wasting our money and that taxes are too high and all that, and I still think that. But what kind of pushed me, a lot of small C conservatives, those are people that hold those beliefs but don't necessarily get involved, is they're too busy running their own businesses, they're too busy working hard, they're too busy living life. But when I found that, the very freedoms that this country was based on were being subverted by these people. And, these other people, they don't live by the maxim of like, you do your thing, I do mine. They live by, if you don't agree with me, I'm coming for you. And I found that mentality to be frightening. And I basically came to the conclusion that the only way forward was in politics, because that's where the fight is at. And so that's where other people may feel called to do other things, but that's where I felt that I would be best used to promote true liberty and Canadian values.
Well, we're grateful for you and for every member of Parliament who is standing up for righteousness. One of the reasons we had hoped to talk to you this week, and thanks for joining us on short notice, was because the March for Life, or is Life Week. I think both We Need a Law and Campaign Life Coalition and other pro-life groups are celebrating, the annual return of our parliamentary, sort of protest, or bringing the issue of protection of innocent human life to Ottawa and in various capitals across the country. So anyway, we're happy to know that there are pro-life candidates seeking the leadership of the Conservative Party. Of course, I wish there were a pro-life leader at the head of every political party in Canada, including the Liberal Party. There are a couple of MPs who, at least in the past, professed pro-life views, but they've sort of been beaten down by their leader. And so we hope that one of you pro-life contestants ends up at the helm of the Conservative Party, representing not only your people in the party and people of the country, but the unborn across this country. So thank you for doing that, you and all the others who stand up for righteousness.
Thank you, Rod. I appreciate that.
Yeah, and we want to point this out. Of course, it's a little bit unusual, perhaps, for one political party to talk to another member of another political party in this way. But the issue of life does transcend party lines, and it certainly should transcend politics, and it should hopefully be something that unites everyone who believes that every preborn life is worth defending. So, Derek, if you outside of politics, have you been involved in any pro-life activities? Are there any pro-life activities that are particularly close to your heart?
Well, most of my pro-life activity actually has been through politics. I was involved in pro-life, campus clubs and so on. But I was a delegate to our last Conservative convention, where we passed some decent pro-life policy resolutions, and we were very close to passing some other significant policies. But I believe next time, with the right leader in place, we can pass the types of resolutions that we need.
Okay, interesting. So yeah, it's come full circle to that. And so even though you're a first-time MP, I was a little surprised to see you running, quite frankly. You decided to take the big jump. And in terms of what pushed you to actually run for the leadership, was there anything beyond just it was the time? All right.
Well, I when I got into politics, I made it very clear that I was in this to push the Conservative movement as far forward as I possibly could. And I wasn't expecting this leadership race right now. I mean, we expected at some point Scheer's leadership might be challenged based on the election results, but I didn't expect him to step down like he did. That took many of us by surprise. Most of us, I would think, by surprise. You never know when a leadership race is going to come up. It could be once every couple of years. It could be once every decade. And so, I thought about it and I prayed about it and I talked with my wife, and we spent several weeks thinking about it very, very seriously. But I felt that this was an opportunity that, so long as the door was open, I would keep walking. And I am. The doors are still open, and I'm still walking. So that's my plan. And I'm one of only 4 candidates who made it in under some of the most extreme and challenging conditions that have existed ever, to my knowledge, in terms of fundraising and so on.
Yeah. Certainly a high bar, both for the money raised and the signatures. So congratulations to you and the others who made that target. A lot of work.
Yeah, absolutely.
We've been following the race from the beginning. Of course, we're interested. Our outside view is that Andrew Scheer, kind of went from being a strong pro-lifer and knuckled under a little bit, or at least backed down, softened his message, his pro-life message. And of course, some in the Conservative Party, are blaming the fact that he's pro-life and pro-family for the loss of the election. We kind of think it's the other way around, that backing down from principles that you say you believe in might be part of that as well. But anyway, in the course of this campaign, 2 of your fellow contestants have been blocked or dropped Richard DeCarey was the first one. He was basically kicked out or made ineligible by the inner circle of the Conservative Party for his comments on the LGBTQ agenda and natural human sexuality. Then Jim Karahalios was blocked because some concerns expressed in his campaign regarding Sharia law. Now, a few weeks ago, you made comments, and which we agree with, by the way, that Theresa Tam should resign or be fired because of her involvement with WHO and the appearance to us, and I think you expressed that as well, of maybe giving too much credence to communist China as opposed to the people of Canada. So what's been the outfall of that? What's been the feedback to you as a result of making those comments, which, by the way, we're pleased that you didn't back down. You made your comments and you stood your ground. So where do you see that conversation going?
Well, we got almost entirely very positive support from the Conservative Party membership. The media, of course, tried to spin it as if it was a racist comment. And there was people within our own party, at the caucus level that were upset and concerned. I've said what I said. I've said what I said on that issue, and people are free to look at what I said. But I think these questions need to be asked, and I don't think it's wise to let the media dictate what we should and shouldn't say. I think we need to be bold and have courage when we say things, and not to let the media push us into a corner. So that was the type of leadership I was trying to emulate during this time, and that's the type of leadership I would have as leader of the party.
Good for you. That's very good to hear. I think we've all seen it when we see someone who has shown principles in the past take a bit of a step backwards. The media seems to see movement and keep pushing and pushing. And when you've stood firm, they had no more story. That was that. They know where you stand. Move on.
A famous quote, I think it was Groucho Marx, said, "I have principles, and if you don't like them, well, I've got other ones." But we think something like that. Principles and convictions should stand regardless of contrary public opinion. So again, thanks for taking a strong stand on that, and we presume that would carry through to some of the issues close to our heart. Pro-life issues, family, traditional family values, and of course, personal freedom. So, do you have any comments about the debt situation and the proper government response to financial issues?
Yeah, so our debt situation wasn't that great to begin with prior to COVID-19, and now it's much worse. The governments have to be responsible with the money that they raise and use, and we just haven't seen that. And often in mainstream media, we see people arguing for, do we even need a balanced budget? Do we? The idea that we can have perpetual deficits and ever increasing deficits and all this. I don't believe that. I believe that we need to get our economy running on all cylinders. A large part of that at its base is making sure we get our natural resource sector back on track. So that means repealing some of the legislation that the Trudeau Liberals have brought in. And it means prioritizing energy development, because it just has such a major impact on the economy, on manufacturing in Ontario, on banking and legal work on Bay Street. Natural resources is just a huge part of our economy. So we need to make sure our economy is running on all cylinders, and we need to cut red tape, cut personal tax rates. And when we do that, we can start raising the revenues that we need to start paying off the debt and the deficit. And of course, there's other, for example, like there's so many things that the government spends money on that it shouldn't. I mean, funding overseas abortions, just to name one. There's a lot of sort of waste that can be trimmed here and there. But the main driver here is we need to grow our economy and get our economy back on track. And that's the vehicle to being able to pay off the debt.
Yeah. And thanks for raising that issue of funding overseas abortions. That's one that we can all agree on. It's, I think you and others have called it colonialization, especially in Africa, neo-colonialization, where Western countries are imposing this culture of abortion on other countries. Like, it's bad enough here, pushing it there. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I believe you've got a website. Do you want to share that? I know that you're probably looking for help. You're looking for support, and you probably need it very soon. So if you want to give people your website, be happy to send them there and see how you can be supported in your support. As you support life, we want to extend the hand of fellowship to you.
Sure. Well, my website is www.dereksloan.ca, and people can go there and see what else I'm doing and how to get involved with the campaign if they like.
Thank you very much. So that's dereksloan.ca.
That's correct.
Yeah.
And I should mention for French members of the CHP or whoever else is watching this, I have a French website, dereksloan.net.
Okay. Yes. And Rod, did you have any final thoughts?
Well, just we extend the right hand of fellowship to you and to others who in the House of Commons and other contestants who are bringing up the issues of life and not afraid to stand for them. Christian Heritage Party, I'll just make this statement about our positions. We support the protection of innocent human life from conception to natural death. We support the traditional family values, and we think those, the family is the building block of society. We support personal freedom and conscience and all those things that are so important to having a civil society. And we agree with you that our nation needs to get out of debt. This borrowing our grandchildren and now our great-grandchildren's money and using it for things that we think we want today is not the way to go. So we certainly wish you and Leslyn and possibly Jim Karahalios well in your journey. We hope that Conservative Party members will support one of the pro-life candidates, and we thank you for taking the time to be with us today. It's a pleasure to get to know you a little bit through Zoom, and we hope to get to know you better in the future. So thank you.
Thank you so much for having me, and God bless you and all your members.
Thank you. So thank you both so much for this conversation. Very good. And to all of our viewers, please do everything that you can to support the March for Life that's happening this week. It's too bad that we won't be all seeing each other on Parliament Hill as we would normally at this time of year. But stay tuned to what's happening and be encouraged in our continued struggle to protect the unborn. And again, our thanks to all who are seeking to do that, both inside and outside of Parliament. Again, thanks for watching. Hope that you'll join us again next week for another edition of CHP Talks.
Thank you.